So, is the fix in mixing or mastering? It's actually both. Music production can be complicated enough as it is, with lots of different things to learn and figure out, from understanding the nuances of sound design to navigating complex software packages like digital audio workstations, routing, and more. However, one area that particularly tends to confuse beginners is this distinction between mixing and mastering. And it makes sense when you consider just how much has changed in the last 20 years with respect to those two activities. In this video, I'll explain which tasks should be done in the mixing stage and which should be saved for the mastering stage. I'll also show you how you can use mastering tools to correct problems that were originally only solvable in the mixing stage. My hope here is to provide clarity around this controversial subject, but also give you some tips around choosing a workflow should you encounter these problems. In the music production process, mixing and mastering have traditionally been separate and distinct tasks, each with their own set of goals, techniques, and not to mention mindsets. Mixing is the process of balancing and blending individual tracks or elements within a song, while mastering involves preparing the final mix, often working with just one bounced song file and getting it ready for distribution by optimizing its overall tonal balance, loudness, and other sonic qualities. However, thanks to new software tools like the ones we make here at iZotope, and changes in the music industry landscape, the line between those two tasks has become increasingly blurry and less defined. Nowadays, many music producers and engineers find themselves having to do both mixing and mastering, as well as other related tasks like repair and restoration or tuning. Some people don't even bother bouncing out a stereo file for mastering, preferring to do their mastering work on the stereo bus of the multi-track mix. And this makes sense, as it can sometimes be difficult to correct specific issues or artifacts that may present in the mix if the mastering engineer doesn't have access to all the individual tracks. We built one such tool, called Tonal Balance Control, to accommodate this workflow and act as a powerful metering bridge that can talk to mixing tools like Nectar and Neutron, as well as mastering tools like Ozone, all in one session. Conversely, some music producers and engineers still prefer to work on mastering their music by bouncing out a single stereo file and doing their work there. One of the main benefits of this approach is that it allows for a more streamlined and focused workflow, since the mastering engineer can work with a pre-mastered stereo file rather than having to go back and forth between a dense mixing session and a singular mastering project. Some mastering engineers believe that they can achieve even better results by working on a single stereo file, since they have more control over the overall tonal balance and dynamics of the mix. So what's the right workflow for you, and how do you know which tool to use to solve mixing and mastering problems in the first place? I want to pose a series of music production challenges by laying out a problem and asking you to guess whether the solution can be achieved in a mixing workflow or a mastering workflow. Let's begin. Challenge number 1. I can't hear my guitar. Also, my vocals are quieter and my snare drum is also quiet, even though it's peaking on my channel meter. And if I make it any louder, I'm just going to overtake the mix, but I can't hear it. The solution lies in mixing. What's probably happening here is frequency masking. Frequency masking occurs when two or more sounds share the same frequency range, and one sound masks or obscures another. In a mixing context, this can happen when instruments occupy the same frequency range, resulting in muddiness or reduced audibility. One example of frequency masking in mixing context could be a scenario where a snare drum and a vocal track share the same frequency space, causing the vocal to be less audible or masked by the snare. In such a scenario, an engineer may apply EQ to cut some of the frequencies from the snare drum so that the vocal can be heard more clearly. Or they may adjust the volume levels of each track to create more separation and clarity in the mix. Luckily, mixing engineers can address this with Neutron's masking meter in the EQs, or just use the unmask module altogether to gently sidechain competing frequency tracks for better separation and clarity. Check the pop-out link to see unmasking in action. Challenge number 2. My low end is muddy and boomy. It's hard to hear what's going on down there, even though I've got lots of instruments like synths, kicks, bass guitars, all that stuff in that range. Now the answer? Both. Now believe it or not, you can take steps to achieve clarity in the lows either through mixing or mastering. Let me explain. In mixing, creating a clear low end should be done with things like sidechaining bass to kick, or maybe using unmask, as I mentioned earlier. Or you can just carve away frequencies that don't belong in that 0 to 250 Hz range by high-passing rumble out of mix elements. In the mastering phase, you can achieve low-end clarity and sharpness by using low-end focus in iZotope Ozone. With low-end focus, you can use simple controls to sharpen the edges of your bass sounds, whether they're flabby kick drums, overwhelming synths, or boomy bass guitars. Low-end focus can also be used as a subtle effect to get an extra bit of bass magic and put your track over the finish line. The punchy mode is perfect for emphasizing transient, sudden elements such as kicks, while the smooth mode works well for enhancing the sustained low-end elements like bass synths and guitars. Challenge number 3. My cymbals are bright, if not sour, in my ears. Same with the vocals. They're super sibilant and harsh. Is the fix in mixing or mastering? It's actually both. At the vocal level, sibilance refers to the hissing or S and sh sounds that occur in vocals when pronouncing certain syllables or consonants. In a mixing context, sibilance can be a problem if it's too pronounced or distracting, as it can be harsh or unpleasant to the listener. Mixing engineers use a range of tools to manage sibilance, such as de-essers like the one in Nectar 3+, which are specialized audio processors that reduce the level of sibilant frequencies in a vocal recording. De-essers work by detecting and compressing or attenuating the sibilant frequencies while leaving the rest of the vocal recording unaffected. Now, in a mastering context, you can still reduce harshness in a given frequency range using the spectral shaper in iZotope Ozone. The spectral shaper can be used to reduce the brightness of a vocal track by attenuating high-frequency energy above a certain threshold. It's difficult to get as surgically focused on just the vocals on a stereo track, as other frequency content shares that range on a stereo mix, but careful manipulation of the parameters can give you good results if you're gentle with the module. It's really great for taming percussive transients, sibilant hi-hats, harsh vocals, plucky acoustic guitars, and other overly bright mix elements. And don't forget, you can process the mid or side channels separately with spectral shaper. So if your bright cymbals are panned out to one of the sides in your master, you can soften them using spectral shaper in the sides channel mode without softening anything in the center channel. Challenge number 4. The track sounds good overall, but the drums jump out a bit, and the vocals too, making me reach for my volume control on my playback device. The answer? More likely than not, a mastering solution. If the loudness fluctuations are especially loud, then I'd say it's time to revisit the mix. But if you're noticing small fluctuations in level, a mastering compressor is ideal to tame these micro dynamics. Experiment with using low compression ratios such as 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 and allow for gentle, transparent dynamic control. Set a moderate threshold to control the dynamic range of the mix without excessive gain reduction. Use a slow attack time to preserve the transient detail and punch of the mix. Try using a fast release time to ensure that the compressor recovers quickly between peaks. And also consider using parallel compression to provide more control over the dynamics and maintain the overall balance and tone of the mix. To watch in-depth mastering compression lessons, check out our latest season of Are You Listening in the pop-out link above. Challenge number 5. The vocals sound too dry and upfront. They need some distance. They need to be made to sound like they're floating in the mix. This is a mix solution. What's being described here is the desire for reverb and even maybe a little delay on the vocal. Now, reverb is an acoustic phenomenon where sound waves bounce off surfaces in a space, creating reflections that blend with the direct sound to create a sense of depth and space. It's best to do this in the mixing stage on a vocal and not at the mastering stage. Adding reverb, not just to vocals, but generally at the mastering stage, can affect the balance and clarity of the mix, altering the relationship between the individual elements of the track and the overall sense of space and depth. It can also be difficult to apply reverb in a way that's appropriate for all the elements of the mix, as different elements may require different types or amounts of reverb to sound balanced and cohesive. If you're looking for a reverb to do lots of that guesswork for you in the decay and EQ area, try Neoverb, which has a built-in assistant which takes care of the manual setup work for you. To learn more, click the link above. Challenge number 6. The client wants to hear the mix again, but with the vocal up 3 dB. Or the client says that the mix is great, but the drums are too quiet. Do I have to hop back into the multitrack and boost 30 drum instances? The answer is that you can solve the problem in either domain. Thanks to iZotope Ozone, you no longer have to head to the multitrack to bring the bass, percussion, or vocals up or down. This can happen at the mastering level with a tool called Master Rebalance. All you need is a stereo version of the song and Ozone on the master bus. Now, thanks to our source separation technology, you can raise or lower the level of those individual elements with negligible disruption to the overall mix elements. It's also worth mentioning that you can do this at the mix level too, by opening up your session, heading to the elements you want to raise or lower, and just adjust them to taste. Just be sure to keep an eye on any effects you have on the track elements whose volume you're adjusting. And that does it. Hopefully this video has clarified some of the tasks associated with the mixing and mastering domains, and also shown you that you have the ability to solve problems across either of those two fields. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one soon. Take care.